Hi folks, this is video number 95 and the title is Forest Fires. Have you ever fought a forest fire? I sincerely hope you never have to. I can barely imagine what the firefighters are dealing with in California. The Camp Fire and the Woolsey Fire are just terrible. As I write this, about 60 people killed and over 1,000 missing. Tens of thousands of buildings and homes totally gone. There was an ISIS document secured a year or so ago. Setting fires was on their list. I understand the need for better underbrush management, but it's not out of scope to think ISIS would not take advantage of the situation to bring death and destruction to us infidels. The forest fire I fought, along with my dad, was nothing on the scale of California. But it was a pretty scary event anyway. I was 14 years old. As I have mentioned in a prior story, I spent a little time in the woods almost every day. I don't recall how or who noticed the orange glow on the clouds down by Deer Lake. Dad and I grabbed a shovel and an old throw rug and headed towards the fire. We were fighting the fire for close to an hour by the time our fire company volunteers arrived with the brush truck. They had to find a way in from the Gracie Farm side. The area of the fire was where the cows were diverted to different pastures. Gracie Farms had about 300 head of milking cows. Dad worked there for a short time. The area was overgrown with brush and trees about 20 feet high. There were barbed wire fences still in place about 20 feet apart that were used to channel the cows. Eventually we got the fire out. The only thing left burning was a stump in the middle of the burned area. The decision was made to let it burn out. Everyone went home. About an hour later, I looked out the window and saw the bright glow once again. Dad and I ran up to that area again. That would be about 2/3 of a mile from the house. This time the fire had reached Delavan's back field, and the wind was blowing at us. The flames were about 50 feet high. An ember from the stump apparently blew into the hayfield. There was no way Dad and I could do anything at that point. Dad asked me where Ruddy's was from there. They were closer to our house. I told Dad I would go and call in the fire. I took off running in the dark. That's where spending so much time on the hill paid off. I got to the neighbor's quarry road. It was practically straight downhill at about a 2-to-1 slope. I ran down the road up to the hard road. Ruddy's house was right across the road. I ran as fast as I could because if the fire wasn't stopped quickly, then other farms and homes were downwind. Just as I arrived to Ruddy's and knocked on the door, the fire siren went off in Fleetville. They had seen the glow and called it in. I had run so hard and fast I could not get my breath. I could hear Dad yelling for me. He was back at the house. I couldn't breathe enough to answer, so I just took off running for the house. It's about 200 yards between our houses. Again, I was running in the pitch dark. I ran into Dad about halfway home. He was coming up the road. He was in a panic and smacked me for not answering. I pushed him away and ran on to the house. When he came in and saw that I still could not breathe, he understood why I didn't answer. Apparently, he didn't totally hear me say I was going to go to Ruddy's to call in the fire. Dad apologized for smacking me. He never did again, and I never gave him a reason to do so. I think I was in 9th grade at the time. I didn't make my quarry road until I was working at the heavy equipment school. I brought home a D6 for the weekend. That was 50 years ago, and I still do what I can, with nephew help, to keep it open in case of a fire. My road came in handy a few years ago at the start of the natural gas exploration. Workers from Geokinetics asked if they could survey my hill. Since I had a gas lease with Chesapeake, I said, sure. I told them they could use my place for a base and my road for access if they wanted to. They set up a tower truck across the road and had a telescoping tower with antennas on top. For the next 2 months, the helicopter was dropping wire bags all around the area. The crew went up the road every day. The wires were laid out in a grid of squares. When they were ready, they drove a utility vehicle with a small wagon drill assembly on the back. They drilled small holes about 2 inches in diameter, about 20 feet deep or so. I'm not exactly sure how the charges and sensors were laid out, but small charges were set off and sensors would read the vibrations in the ground. Signals from the sensors were transmitted to the tower truck. Software would translate the signals and create a 3D rendition of what the rock formations underground look like. When I signed my lease, they explained how the software works. I believe it's called Blue Light or Blue Line software. I've seen it on TV. Projectors create a 3D rendition that looks suspended in mid-air. It can be expanded and or separated. This allows the geologist to walk right through the rock structure to look for the best place to drill for gas. A test well just north of Fleetville came up dry for gas. The verdict was that we're too close to the deep coal mines and the gas dissipated out through the mines. The gas is west of the Tunkhannock Creek that flows on a fault line. Well, that concludes my story about forest fires and why it's important to have a little road through the woods just in case. As always, everyone, I wish you all the best.